Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Coach Latoya Kite. I am a relationship coach, and I am here to talk about Queen Vashti. I am so grateful that Kalanda thought of me to have me on to talk about this. When she asked what woman in the Bible that I would want to talk about, and she gave me a few names, I immediately said Queen Vashti because of the simple fact that I have been studying her lately. So I have been studying her. I have heard about her a lot, but I have been studying her a lot more lately because another a conference that I spoke at, they asked me to talk about a woman in the Bible, and God gave me her. And he gave me her because she's not one that is talked about a lot. And if she is, she's talked about in reference to Esther. And she's talked about in reference to Esther in a negative light. So I really did a study on her, and I let God speak to me about her. So we gonna dive into Miss Girl, and I'm gonna give y'all another look on her because we've been like real mean to sis, and I don't really like it too much. So we gonna get into her. So Queen Vashti, she is the definition of not liking someone without getting to know them for yourself. That woman you side eye when you heard rumors about her, that woman that you talk about behind her back, that woman you whisper about, she is the definition of that. So I'm going to dig into her story. And as we dig into her story, I hope to give you all a different perspective of who she was and how she was pivotal to the story of Esther. And without Vashti, there would be no Esther. So she crawled so sis could walk. Okay, so we gonna get into her. So who is Vashti? What people should know is that Vashti was born to a king, King Belshazzar, who is a descendant of Nebuchadnezzar the second. The Medians and the Persians murdered her dad. And when they murdered her dad, when they took over their camp and murdered her dad, they kidnapped her. And when they kidnapped her, instead of killing her, they gave her to one of their sons for her to marry. So now let's think about already Vashti is in a situation where she is given up. First of all, her dad is killed, her home is invaded, she's kidnapped, and then she's given away to a people that don't even like her. So let's just think about that. Like, I'm going into a situation where people already don't like me because of who I was born to. So now I'm already in the negative. I'm already on the side of wrong in their eyes. So I'm giving to this guy who their family doesn't like me, doesn't like my family, killed my family. So now I have to deal with a king that probably doesn't even like me just off the mere fact of who I am. So I'm sure she was loathed. I'm sure she was looked down upon. I'm sure she was mistreated a lot. And so for her to be put into that situation as a woman, and I'm not sure how old she was, but to be taken from your home after your father is murdered and your home is invaded, and to be taken into the situation, I know that is a lot for someone to handle. So she goes into this situation where she has to marry this son, and she has to be his queen. And she doesn't get a say so in it. She just goes into this, she's forced into this situation where she has to do something that she didn't even agree to. No one asked her permission. No one asked her how she felt. No one tried to understand what it would be to be her. So she's thrown into that situation. So that's the background of who Vashti is and how she got into this situation. So she's already had trauma at the hands of men. And so now what happened? What happened in her life after she got kidnapped and she was taken and she was told to marry the son of the people that don't like her? So traditionally, a banquet is held by the king, and it's held for a week long. So after that week long, they're drinking, they're partying it up, all that kind of stuff. Now, they have separate banquets. They have one for the women and they have one for the men. And the reason they have one for the women and the men is because the men get so turned up, the men get so raunchy that the women don't want to be a part of it. So Queen Vashti, while her husband, the king, is having a banquet for the men, she's holding a banquet for the women. And what people don't talk about when they preach about her is that she was so pivotal and she was so impactful that she had the ear of the women in the kingdom and in the city. She had their ear because she was someone that they looked up to, they admired her for who she was. So she was very pivotal to that time. And a lot of men did not like that. So as she's having this banquet and as they are getting drunk in their banquet and partying it up, her husband calls for her. Her husband calls for her to come where he is. So not only does he call for her, he sends 7 of his chambermen to go get her. So you send 7 men to go get a woman to come see you so you can show her off. And some studies show that they wanted to show her off naked. They don't preach about that. They don't talk about that. So she had to be presented again in a situation she did not ask to be in. She was forced to be in. And then you want me to come before you, whether she was naked or not, but y'all are drunk, y'all are acting up, and you know that men are getting drunk and you've been getting drunk for 7 days straight. Yeah, it's some other stuff going on in there. So she refused. She refused to do so. So in her refusal, that upset the king. And as the king, because he is upset, instead of him asking or trying to figure out why she would not come or why she would not want to come, because she should just come, right? Because I'm the king and I asked for her to come. So she should just come. He consulted with his team. And I'm reading, and I studied this from, and I didn't read no scripture, I'm so sorry. This is from Esther 1 and starting at 9 through 22. So right now I'm in verses 9 through 15. So in verse 9, hold on. Okay, Queen Vashti also gave a feast for the women of King Xerxes, who is the king, her husband. On the 7th day, when the king was feeling good from the wine, Xerxes commanded these names, Lord, Mehuman, Bista, Arbana, Bigtha, Abactha, Sether, and Carcass, the 7 eunuchs who personally served him, to bring Queen Vashti before him with her royal crown. He wanted to show off her beauty to the people and the officials because she was very beautiful. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command that was delivered by his eunuchs. The king became furious and his anger burned within him. So this is where I am now, where he got upset because she refused. So after that, we go to, I'm at verse 13 now. Verse 13, the king consulted the wise men, who are also called his council, and it's basically like his lawyers, his legal team, basically, who understood the times, for it was his normal procedure to confer with experts in law and justice. The most trusted ones, and these are some, these names, Karshina, Shether, and Matha, Tarshish, Maris, Marcina, and Mumukin. They were the 7 officials of Persia and Midian, who had personal access to the king and occupied the highest positions in the kingdom. The king asked them, he didn't ask his wife, he asked them. He asked, according to the law, what should be done with Queen Vashti since she refused to obey King Xerxes' command that was delivered by the eunuchs? So this is the point where he's asking for counsel to figure out what to do because he's so upset that he can't let that stand. He doesn't want to let that stand. So because it is customary for you to talk to wise counsel, that's what he did. So they sat around and they talked about what needed to be done about Vashti. And the thing that I also found kind of problematic, that you asked what to do with her, but you didn't ask what to do with your anger. You didn't pray about your anger. You didn't talk to anybody about your anger, which we see a lot in men who they don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about why they see a thing the way that they see it. They automatically go, I'm gonna go to my homeboys and I'm gonna talk to them and see what I need to do because homegirl tripping. You know what I'm saying? So now we have this council and they're talking about what needs to go on. So now what was the result of her refusal? So we are now in verse 16. Memucan said, in the presence of the king and his officials, Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but all the officials and the people who are in every one of King Xerxes' provinces. For the queen's actions will become public knowledge to all the women and cause them to despise their husbands and say that King Xerxes ordered Queen Vashti brought from before him, but she did not come. So at this point, what they are saying is, this don't only affect you, this affect us too. She disobeyed you, she refused to do what you wanted her to do. So now our wives gonna hear about it, our women gonna hear about it. And because she is so impactful, because they already admire her, they're gonna now follow what she does, and now we're all gonna have problems. Now everything is gonna be in chaos. Our homes are gonna be chaotic because at the end of the day, the king couldn't even get control of his wife. So what are we going to say to our wives? How are we going to be able to tell our wives anything without them coming at us with something or refusing to do something that we ask? So we now need to do something about that. So what scripture did I leave off of? 18. Before the day is over, the noble women of Persia and Media who hear about the queen's act will say the same thing to all the king's officials, resulting in more contempt and fury. If it meets the king's approval. So now we're here where they're now telling him what needs to be done about her. So this is the point where the council has come up with what needs to happen for them to save face, so the king can continue to be the king, so that they can all still be the men that they are in their families' lives, because they don't want women to feel like they can do what she did. So this is what they said: if it meets the king's approval, verse 19, he should personally issue a royal decree. Let it be recorded in the laws of Persia and Media so that it cannot be revoked. Vashti is not to enter King Xerxes' presence, and her royal position is to be given to another woman who is more worthy. So basically, they wanted him to release a statement, divorce her, and give her estate to someone else. So this will now make all the other women honor their husbands no matter what, because there's now a statement which is basically law abiding. It's law binding. It's now put out there that if your husband says something, you can't refuse him. This is what is now put out to everyone in the kingdom and in the city. So now the men can rule over their homes like they want to, without the fear of women taking over and causing chaos. Because in their mind, it's going to cause an uproar. In their mind, they're going to lose control. In their mind, this cannot happen, so we got to stop this. So the king takes their advice and he divorces her. So now we are at 21. The king, verse 21, the king and his counselors approved the proposal, and he followed Memucan's advice. He sent letters to all the royal provinces, to each province in its own script, and to each ethnic group in its own language, that every man should be master of his own house and speak in the language of his own people. So now what is the connection to Esther? After this, we don't hear anything else about Queen Vashti. We don't hear anything else about her. So we don't know if she went on to have a great life. We don't know if she was killed, because some studies say that she may have been killed. We don't know what happens to her. Her story ends here. When he divorces her, you hear no more about her. But who knows? She could have went on and had this great life, because now you are up under the thumb of a man who didn't care for you in the first place. Because remind you, like I said, she was kidnapped and taken and told to marry the son of the people that already hated her. So instead of anyone standing up for this woman and saying, I understand, you are being put in an unfair situation. You are put in an unsafe situation. Who wants to be presented in front of a bunch of men to show off their beauty when they are acting like nuts? Who wants to do that? Who wants to stand in front of a bunch of men so they can argue her, but the people say I argue, like, why would I want to come from my nice banquet? Because I'm sure her banquet was nice and chill. We having a good old girls' night and we have some girl talk, and you come and you send 7 men to come over here and tell me to come in here to present myself to all of you while y'all drunk and turned up. So no one thinks about, she was in a tough situation. So in that time, for her to be bold enough to refuse is something that would definitely cause the man to be in a tight spot. Because now, if me as a woman, I see you as a woman refuse the king, oh, this man over here who just work in the field, oh, he can't tell me nothing. So guess what? You come over here and you tell me, oh, is my dinner ready? No, sir, it's not, because I'm tired. Okay. So yeah. So we don't want to uprising like that, because women are not known to refuse a man, especially a king. So you're refusing me. So my action now, my response to that now is to get rid of you. My response to that now is to say, you're no longer worthy. My response to that now is to give away the very thing that you were supposed to have after we took you from your family. You were born to be a queen. You were bred for this. You were born to a king. So it's not like you came from nothing. It's not like you were some random. You came from a king. You were born to a king, and they had already equipped you on how to be a queen. And now you're put into this situation where your livelihood and everything about you is taken out of your hand. And now you want me to go along with everything you say. So at this point, in my mind, I'm thinking, baby was fed up. She was tired. She was sick of this. Like, I done lost my family. My daddy got killed. They took me away from my village or my kingdom. They took me away, and then they forced me to marry somebody who's the son of people that hate me, who killed my daddy. So then you expect me to be with this person, and you expect me to live with this person, and you expect me, I'm sure they wanted children out of them. They didn't say if she had any kids, but who knows if she had already had children. But she is expected to, because back then you always expected to give them a baby. So I am expected to do all of these things after I'm put in a situation that I didn't ask to be in. When I'm thinking that I'm going to be a queen over my own kingdom, and then I'm told you're not going to be queen to your own kingdom. I'm going to kill your daddy, take you away, and make you marry my son. And now you're going to be his queen in our kingdom. Nobody talks about that. I have heard this preached my whole life. And what people do is they demonize Vashti to uplift Esther. And I don't like that. Now, sis, I ain't talking about Esther now. I almost went into a deep dive of Esther too with this, but I had to stay on assignment. You said Queen Vashti, so I stayed there. But I was going into a deep dive on sis too. But does that mean that Vashti was a bad person? Does that mean that she deserved what she got? No. And does that mean that she was not someone called by God? No, that just means that she wasn't called for this situation, because Esther was the one that was supposed to help get her people out of the situation of bondage that they were in. So that was the assignment of Esther. It was not the assignment of Queen Vashti. It wasn't her assignment. So you had to move Vashti out of the way, because if Vashti still was there, then the people of Persia would not be free, because Vashti is not their people. So Vashti don't care. She was kidnapped. She looking at y'all like, hey, I'm in prison too. Shoot, we need to rescue each other. At this point, they took me from my people. So she probably don't care about helping to rescue you. So at the end of it all, doesn't mean again that she was a bad person. It just means that baby was fed up. And it means that Esther was called to do what needed to be done, because God wanted to free his people. And the only way that could happen was if Esther was queen. So now Esther is put in the place where she has the power to be able to free the people of God that have been in bondage while Vashti was the queen. So we don't know what happened to her. We don't know what goes on with her. We don't know. They don't tell much of her side of anything. We just shuffle her on out the way to usher Esther in. And again, I'm not bashing Esther, because I'm not here to bash either one of them. But what I want you guys to rethink about is how we see Vashti. Because again, how I've heard it preached and how I've been taught it all my life, Queen Vashti was the enemy, and she had to go because that was Esther's place. And at the end of the day, Vashti couldn't be there. Vashti wasn't able to handle it. Vashti was disobedient. She was disobedient. They don't teach about that she refused because of the situation she was in. So sometimes, and we see it today, that we need to be disobedient to some things, some laws and some teachings, so that we can be free. We missed that with her. She wanted to be free. From the time that her daddy was killed, she was in bondage. And they said that his reign was for I think 10 years. I have to get that right. But his reign was for 10 years, the son. So she's queen for probably 10 years. So I'm leaving this situation thinking that I am going to be queen of my own kingdom, and then be shifted and snatched and taken to some place where now I have to be a queen of people who don't like me. Who want to be in that situation? Who wants to be around people that don't like them? And what I'm amazed at is that even though she was in that situation, she was still able to get the ear of the women in the kingdom. She was still able to get their ear, even though she was not their people. She was not liked, and she was taken from a whole different scenario. Like, it's just so many things that fought against her, but for her to have their ear enough that it got the men in a panic, they saying, hey, we can't let this live. We can't let this happen, because she gonna influence our wives. And the one thing I've learned about the enemy, if you're not a threat, he'll leave you alone. The only reason the enemy bothers you is because you're a threat. And she could have been one of the most powerful women in the Bible if she would have continued on, or if she would have done something after her refusal, because who's to say she couldn't have gone on and done her own thing, start her own kingdom, start her own movement. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know, because again, we don't know if she lived. And maybe that's why we don't hear about her anymore, because maybe they killed her because of the refusal. I'm not sure. But at the end of it all, sis, like, I really fell in love with her, like, for real, because I'm just like, wait a minute, girl. So you mean to tell me all these men are against you? You are one woman, and all these men, he sent 7 men to come get you, and then he sat down with a few other men to kick you out. And he wanted you to come in front of other men and drunk and all that stuff like that. Like you had all them these people against you, and you still stuck your chest out and said, not today, immediately no. I won't do that. So that is very inspiring to me, to see a woman in that position, not knowing if she would die. She didn't know what they would do. She just knew that I'm not doing this. And I want us to take that in our lives, that at the end of the day, if God says so, that's what it is. And at the end of it all, we can't let anyone else hold us back from doing what God says to do, no matter what we think the consequences will be, because I know from experience, a consequence of feeling like you are being stuck and feeling like you can't be who you're called to be is worse than anything else anybody could do to you. Because basically, if they kill you, you are already dead if you're not living out your purpose. You're already dead if you're not doing what God commanded you to do. You're already without life if you're not doing the things that empower you. So we need to take our guidance from God and not people. And not because you have leadership, a dictatorship over me. That won't matter when it comes to what God wants me to do. If God wants me to do a thing, I may not be okay with it. Even Jesus said, hey, take this cup away from me. I may not want to do it, but I understand that God knows best and God knows what he needs to get done. So guess what? I'm going to go in here. I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not doing it. And I'm going to get kicked out. I don't even know that I'm getting kicked out. You're going to divorce me and you're going to put some other chick here. But that's all well and good, because at the end of the day, if she's alive, if she was alive, I feel like, and as somebody who has been divorced, I understand. I don't care how I get out this situation, long as I'm not with you. If I gotta be by myself, I am okay, long as I am not with you. And that's part of what went through sis mind. Like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm not doing this, and you can do what you want to do. So that is some of my study, because I took a deep dive on her. Okay, so that's most of my study on her. So I hope, like I said, I hope you guys, from what I have taught, what I have shown you or read about, or whatever, that you re-envision her, and let's kind of back off of her, you know what I'm saying? Let's rethink her, because like I said, all my life, I have heard that she is like just wrong. Like she just wasn't right. And it's all about Esther, because Esther came in, and if we want to really talk about it, because for real, if we really want to talk about it, Esther didn't win the prize. She just was a tool that God used, but the king was not a prize. He was horrible. So I'm not sure how he ended up treating her as well. They say what they say in the Bible about how she, what happened with them. But again, that's not my lesson to teach. But yeah, so that is what I have about Queen Vashti.